Going back to the series, we break down each team's schedule. I give you my thoughts on the 2023 season. We are continuing with the NFC East with the New York Football Giants. Now, offhand, when you look at the overall schedule, it is a pretty tough one, no doubt. And I view this as going to be very similar to last year's team, and also with success-wise. But with that being said, jumping right into it, for week 1 at home, season opener as well, the Dallas Cowboys. I do have the Cowboys winning this one. I mentioned this in my Dallas video. If not, check that out. Please go do so. I believe Cowboys are going to be going off on a roaring start, firing all cylinders very quickly right away. And I think they can take full advantage of the New York Giants in this one. My biggest concern for the Giants, and I will get to this throughout the whole breakdown, is Daniel Jones. I'm not a huge Daniel Jones fan. I don't want to say I'm on the boat of he's a horrible quarterback. I think at best case scenario, he's above average. Can he play a little bit better than he did last year? Sure. But I don't think that's going to be good enough for the team to keep him long term. I get they just gave him the big contract, which I do not like, and I spoke about that in a video not too a while back when they originally gave him the contract. I'm not a big fan of it. I think they should have franchise tagged him. They should have tried and find a way to sign Saquon to an extension and let Daniel Jones give him, one more year on his contract, a prove-it deal. I don't like that they signed him for that much. And I get for the going rate for starting quarterbacks, it's not bad money, $40 million, but still I don't think he's worth it. And I believe the Cowboys will be one of the first teams to really show that in Daniel Jones. And they definitely won't be the last team to do that. So for this one, I do have them losing. Again, I just think outside of Darren Waller, not too crazy with the pieces around them. Not horrible pieces, but just nothing to the caliber level that we know that Darren Waller can be. His potential is elite. Outside of that is not so much. And also with Saquon, we don't know what's going to happen with his contract dispute. He seems very upset that he has not received a long-term deal. And he also turned down a contract I think that was going to pay him $14 million a year. So we don't know what's going to happen with that. Next, we're jumping to week 2 with the Arizona Cardinals. This should be an easy one for the Giants. I do have the Cardinals being one of the worst teams in the NFL. I just think it's just going to kind of fall apart here, especially with Kyler Murray. I think this is kind of be like the last season, and I want to say worst, the downside of the last dance, without the championships or anything like that. I think it's getting to a point where they're just going to crumble, and I think they're going to be looking to another direction to find their franchise quarterback next year in the draft in 2024. And I think once again, I think the Giants can take full advantage of this one. The defense isn't that great, so I definitely Brian Daboll can really scheme up plays to pick apart this Cardinals defense as well. And you look at, of course, the head coach didn't do an amazing job against Kansas City, lighting up 38 points and really couldn't stop him, especially in the second half. So next we have the San Francisco 49ers. I have the Giants losing this one. The San Francisco 49ers are a far superior team. And I mentioned this in my Philadelphia Eagles video. It's between San Fran and Philly for the top spot in the NFC to be the team to advance to the Super Bowl. I just don't see the Giants winning this one. I just think that the 49ers have way too much firepower on both sides of the ball, too much elite talent to really go head-to-head. Could they make it a close game? Sure, but I think ultimately it's just going to come down to I think just once again for the Cowboys for week 1, it's going to come down to the defense. Daniel Jones versus defense. I'm going to trust the San Fran defense over Daniel Jones. I'm sorry, way too much talent, especially on that defensive line. The front four is going to get after him, and he's definitely going to make him uncomfortable. And I can see him kind of reverting back a little to pre-Brian Daboll Daniel Jones in this one. So next we move to Seattle. I have them losing this one as well. I mentioned this at times in other videos when we were talking about matchups for Seattle. Offensively, I think they're just too lethal. When you look at a trio, I think it's a very underrated one potentially with DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and now Jackson Smith and Jigba being the slot receiver as well. You also have Noah Fant at tight end, along with a couple other ones, but the main focus is really the wide receivers and also Kenneth Walker as well, along with their second round pick they had. If Geno Smith can live up to what he was last year, absolutely it's going to be this is definitely going to be a tough team to face. And I said I have them a dark horse as a potential team to make it to the Super Bowl. I know it's very funny to say, but I think they do have the makeup for that. But once again, when I get to the Seahawks, the biggest factor is going to be Geno Smith. But I do expect him to play to a similar caliber he did last year, and I have taking down the Giants in this one. Also looking at the defense side of the ball for Pete Carroll. I think they did an amazing job in free agency and also in the draft, pairing Witherspoon with Woodland, along with Jamal Adams, Diggs, and so forth. I think this is going to be very challenging for the skill position group for the Giants to really try and get open and make plays with this great defense, and also vice versa with the Giants defense really holding together and trying to stop a trio of pretty good wide receivers, especially for DK Metcalf, and we'll see for the wild card of Jackson Smith-Njigba how well he can be. He'll definitely be a defining factor in this one. If he can just come out of the gates full swing, playing well, no doubt it's going to put too much pressure on the defense alongside worrying about DK Metcalf on the outside and Tyler Lockett on the other. So I do have the Giants losing this one. Next, we go to the Miami Dolphins. The streak continues. I have them losing this one as well. Similar to what I said for Seattle. Well, not say similar to Seattle, but similar to San Fran, I should say. Offense, way too lethal. Too much elite talent on that side of the ball, especially with Tyreek Hill. And I think up-and-coming Jalen Waddle. Running backs, just too fast. Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson Jr., the running back they added from Texas A&M. Offensive line, I'm not too keen on. I think it's still a weakness for them. But I did get a little bit better in that one. And also, I've seen pictures of Tua. It seems like he's really bulked up a little. And, of course, put on a new helmet. I think it's the Vices 2, which is, I think, the best helmet for concussion problems as well. So I do expect him to be with the team for almost the whole season, basically. I mean, you still have to worry about barring for injury, but I think overall he will be there for the whole season. And we see him at his best. He really has stepped up and shined in big games last year. And I think he'll take full advantage of this Giants defense. And also, I mean, the only thing I will say, if I guess to kind of backtrack a little, I think the Giants can take full advantage of the Dolphins defense as well. I think there are times where they don't play as well as they should. I view them as when I talk about Miami, I compare them to the Chiefs. Defense, they're not going to flash on you. They're not going to be top 3 in the top 5 in the NFL in defense or points per game, yardage, whatsoever. It might be ugly at times, but they'll get the job done. Similar to what Kansas City has shown on their defense side of the ball. They'll step up when it matters most. I do have this one maybe being closer than it should be just because of the defense side of the ball for the Dolphins. I know the big player they got on that side was Jalen Ramsey, and also went to the draft and got Cam Smith in the second round, their first pick in the draft. But overall, I do have the Dolphins should have no problem with taking down the Giants. I do think it'll be a bit closer than it should be, but ultimately I do have them winning. Next, here we go. We have the rematch going back to Buffalo against his former boss, if you want to say that, Sean McDermott. Of course, when he left, there was behind the scenes, there was talks of it just, they didn't see eye to eye. It seemed like at times they kept butting heads quite a bit. And it's going to be, no doubt, even with that being said, it's a matchup-wise, this is going to probably be, you could say, maybe game of the year potentially, because they just know each other too well. Brian Daboll knows the Sean McDermott defense, the pros, the cons, how to exploit them, and also with Josh Allen. He knows the strengths and also the weaknesses that he has shown over his career, and vice versa. For Sean McDermott, he knows the game plan for Brian Daboll, what he wants to do, how he wants to use his skill players, and more importantly, how he wants to use Daniel Jones. I do have this one being a close game, but I think Buffalo will pull this one out simply because of the quarterback play. I'd much rather trust Josh Allen than Daniel Jones in this one. Now, granted, you get the higher upside of turnover problems with Josh Allen as opposed to Daniel Jones, who really severely cut that back last year. But also on the flip side, you have the potential of greatness in a game for Allen, and I think most people would probably bet on Allen over Daniel Jones easily. I do have the Bills escaping this one in a close one, but no doubt winning it as well. So starting off the start of the season, 1-5 through the first 6 games. Not a good sign, especially if you're a Giants fan. Very worrisome, and there might be chatter, especially because of how New York sports are, especially with the media. There might be start hear some talks about, was last year a fluke? Is Brian Dable as good as a head coach as he as he says he is, or he's shown? I think you might start hearing rumblings of maybe he might be in the hot seat. Maybe we put too much faith on him really fast. I think there will be a ton of pressure on the Giants, especially on Brian Dable, and also with Daniel Jones as well being the quarterback, the face of the franchise. I think you're gonna start hearing rumblings of that. But fear no more. I think this is where they're really gonna turn a corner on this one. So week 7, we have Washington. The Jets should easily win this one. I'm not too sold on Sam Howell. And also Ron Rivera hasn't done a great job in Washington. It has been average at best there for his career. No, you can put a lot of blame on Daniel Snyder, but ultimately he's the head coach. So whether it's right or wrong, he's going to be scapegoated. Along with that, Sam Howell as well. This is another team that could potentially be a top pick in the 2024 draft, and looking for a franchise guy in that one. The only saving grace for Washington is just their defense. A great defense, no doubt, though they have question marks with Chase Young. Hasn't lived up to what he was supposed to be in the 2nd overall pick. Now, granted, the big problem has been injury, unfortunately, but regardless, hasn't lived up to what he was supposed to. But even with that part of it, the defense, I think, will do a good job in this one. Of course, being a divisional game, it will be close, but the Giants, I believe, will pull this one out. Next, we go to, the team sharing the stadium, the New York Jets, I should say. Jets versus Giants. Definitely should be a very exciting one, no doubt. As the teams have really not played well over the last few seasons. I do have the Jets winning this. Simple fact is just I think overall the Jets have a much better team than the Giants, even though I think a lot of people would probably favor Dable over Sirianni. As a head coach, yes, I will say the Giants have a better edge in that position. Outside of that, the Jets have almost every, kind of hit every box in position wise, skill wise. I will trust the Jets much more in this game than the Giants. Once again, coming down to quarterback play, I will rather trust Aaron Rodgers over Daniel Jones, and ultimately they will lose this one. Next, we have the Raiders, which if you've not seen in the news, there are concerns with Jimmy Garoppolo, with him failing his physical back in March. And if he cannot pass the physical before the season starts, they can ultimately let him go. Don't owe him any money, and we don't know what the quarterback situation might be. I don't know, just if with Tom Brady being a minority owner, can he also play as well? I don't know how that works out. I don't know offhand. But potentially, if we say worst case scenario, Garoppolo isn't on the team because of not passing a physical, Tom Brady could definitely be a spot here. Another one, too, I could see is maybe Malik Willis as a wild card one as well. Another one might be Trey Lance, even though they're all battling out for the QB1. If it doesn't work out for him, maybe I could see them trying to trade for Trey Lance. But for this one, I'm going to assume that Garoppolo is on the team for the 2023 season. He passes his physical. I do believe he will. But throwing it out there as a wild card too, if you want to say, if Garoppolo's not on the team, and we don't know who the quarterback is, I think the Giants can win this one. But with Jimmy Garoppolo, even with that as well, I do have the Giants winning. Either way, I guess I should take a step back from the previous one. If Tom Brady's playing, then I don't know if they can beat them. Outside of that, any other quarterback, they can take them down. And Garoppolo, I'm not a huge Garoppolo fan to begin with as well. And I think Brian Dable can take full advantage of a Josh McDaniels defense. And, I shouldn't say defense, but Josh McDaniels team in general. Not a huge fan of McDaniels as well. I think he's a very overrated coach. He got his success because of Tom Brady. And definitely, no doubt, Brian Dable is a better genius at the game than Josh McDaniels. He's better at creating schemes and getting players in the right position as opposed to Josh McDaniels, who just relied on Tom Brady to make him look great. So this should be an easy one, I believe, for the New York Giants. Next, we move to the Dallas Cowboys to wrap up the series. Can they get revenge from Week 1? I think they will. I said this similar to, well, I said the same thing into the Dallas video. The Cowboys can be hot and cold really fast. And of course, in the beginning, I said they'll fire on all cylinders and start off really hot. This is a point where the Cowboys start to really teeter and start to be really cold as a team. And I think the Giants can get even in this one. This one we do have them being away at Jerry World. I think they can steal this one at Dallas, and even the series, splitting the series 1-1. Next, we have wrapping up another playoff our divisional team is the Washington Commanders. I do have them winning this one as well for the same exact reasons as I listed for the first matchup. Next, we have the New England Patriots. I once again have the Giants winning this one over Bill Belichick, even though the big calling card, of course, for Belichick is his defense. In this very rare matchup, I do trust Daniel Jones over Mac Jones, simply because Mac Jones is just not a mobile quarterback, and I don't think he can really be as utilized as best as he can because of that. I know he has Bill O'Brien as an offensive coordinator, and he'll definitely be much better under that as opposed to Matt Patricia calling offensive plays. But with that, I do have the Giants winning this one. So we get to the bye week, start to really pick it up after the first 6 weeks. After the first 6 weeks, they're 1-5, and after that, they have won 5 of the last 6 going to that one. So basically a flip side of that, starting off 1-6 and then going 6-1, or sorry, 5-1, I should say. My bad. Looking pretty good in a late bye, week 13. Can they close it out? Can they really hit their stride and push for the playoffs and potentially the division? Next, we move to the week 14, the Green Bay Packers. I do have the Giants winning this one. My biggest question mark is Jordan Love. I just don't know how he's going to look. Defensively, I know they put a lot of draft picks over the years on the defense side of the ball. But I definitely think Brian Dibble can take full advantage of this. I think this getting their momentum, starting to be on a hot streak, winning streak. I think him and Daniel Jones are going to start to really figure it out and kind of get back to what the Giants were last year, where they took the NFL by storm the first half of the season. Struggled a little bit towards the end, but once again, I think it's almost going to be like the flip side of last year, where they're going to hit their stride late in the season. Best case for them. Week 15, we have the Saints. I do have the Giants winning this one as well, though I will say it's a close game. Offensively, I just don't know with the injury problems with Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas what's going to happen with that as well. And also, we just don't know what type of the version of Derek Carr we're going to get. He says he's rejuvenated and he's excited to be have a fresh start. Who knows? He can be a new man and play entirely different as he was with the Raiders as well, being part of this dysfunctional organization. Saints better in that category as well. Though the downside is they don't have Sean Payton anymore. Not a huge fan of their head coach as well, but I think the Giants can steal this one out. Next, we move on to Philly, the first matchup in this year. And I said this in my Philly video. It's very shocking to see the first matchup in a divisional game this late in the season, starting at week 16. I have the Eagles winning this one. I think they're going to be pushing very closely to get the number 1 seed. At this point, I do have them winning the division. With them at this point getting close to, I think at this point they'll have 13. This will be their 13th win of the year. I think this will lock up the division as well, and they have their eyes on the first seed in the NFC. So I do think they'll take full advantage of this one, get a win against the Giants, and put themselves in contention for that. Next, we have the Rams. I think the Rams will be much better than they were last year. Of course, they were riddled with injuries, but the Giants can take full advantage of this one, especially when they have their eyes sought on to making the wild card once again. Who knows? Maybe they can make better noise than they did last year. Could maybe just go in the playoffs and steal a win. We'll see about that. And I think once again, with 3 wild card spots available and a weak conference, say at least for the NFC, I think that they will take full advantage of this one and win against the Rams. And getting to the last game of the year with the Eagles wrapping up the series and the season, regular season, I do have the Giants winning this one. And I said this in my Eagles video. I think at this point the Eagles will be resting a lot of their players, and the Giants will get an easy one out of this one as well. Similar to how it was last year, though the Giants didn't win the game last year. I think it will be a similar mindset with that, where the Eagles will be resting players. The Giants are not, because they need to push for the playoffs. And I think for this one, they will win this one. And that comes down to wrap up the 2023 season for the New York Giants. I have them at 10-7, so one game better than I believe they were last year. Pretty fair. I don't think an overreaction to the Giants. I don't think it's me overrating them as well. I think it's pretty fair at 10-7. They are the capability of doing that. My biggest concerns, like I said, is just the offense side of the ball, specifically with Daniel Jones. How much of a progression is he going to take into his second year with Brian Daboll? Of course, we saw the great success he had with Josh Allen over the years, and you saw in Allen's third year in 2020, he took off and he was a MVP caliber quarterback, and he took him always to the AFC Championship game. 2021 struggled a tad bit, but we got to many people's belief the best playoff game ever between him and the Kansas City, 13 seconds. So definitely, when he was with Allen, he turned him around and made him one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. Does Daniel Jones have that capability? I don't think so, just because Allen has that physical tool set, amazing arm, great size, good speed. Daniel Jones is, I would say, a poor man's Josh Allen. I mean, has a decent arm, size is good, speed is good, but definitely a downgrade, a poor man's Josh Allen. And I think it's definitely in Brian Daboll's realm of a type of quarterback. After you see what he did with Allen, I think he's no doubt he's trying to replicate that with Daniel Jones, cutting his turnovers severely and utilizing his legs more. Stat wise, last year it didn't jump out to you. It looked pretty mediocre with his stats, but he led him to the playoffs and stole a game against the Vikings at Minnesota. Ended up getting blown out by Philadelphia in the divisional round. But for this one, once again, my biggest concern is just with Daniel Jones. Can he take a necessary and huge leap forward to really prove, not just to prove that he is a good quarterback, but also prove that he is worth the money they gave to him? Because if he doesn't take a big jump as he needs to, people are really going to bash the Giants organization and wondering why they gave him that much money, though they're not trapped on a contract forever. It's definitely not a good look for them regardless. Another question I have outside of Darren Waller, at least securing the tight end spot, is just the wide receiving group. We know DeAndre Hopkins is out there and he's asking for a ton of money. Rumors say that he's asking for around $23 million a year. And of course, with playoff caliber teams, or say Super Bowl caliber teams, not having that money just laying around, the Giants definitely have a capability of getting that. And maybe once again a similar dilemma or similar way it plays out like it did in Buffalo. Once again, getting Stephon Diggs before the 2020 season, along with pairing up with Brian Daboll having a couple of years under Josh Allen, with Josh Allen, you saw the great leap forward that the offense took, especially with Allen. Maybe this is a similar mindset where it's, hey, I have Daniel Jones in his second year, I could potentially get a great wide receiver in DeAndre Hopkins, and that could really elevate Daniel Jones in his play. Could it possibly work? Absolutely. I mean, it definitely helps to have elite talent around any quarterback as well. And no doubt, I think Daniel Jones can take full advantage of that one as well, along with Darren Waller if he can stay healthy. But besides the what ifs for DeAndre Hopkins, he's certainly a possibility. But just looking at the roster right now, not too crazy. I mean, as a Bills fan, I love the pickup for them with Isaiah Hodgins. I think he really showed last year flashes that he could really be a great player for them in this offense. You look at the Kadarius Toney, definitely doesn't look like it worked out in the trade, though it looked like at least for the Giants' sake that he was a bust. Seems like I think he's going to take another step forward with the Chiefs and be definitely a big weapon for them this year. So definitely it sucks for them, for the Giants' sake, that they used a first round pick on him and didn't work out. He traded them to Kansas City, and he kind of is a new player in that one, especially with a much better quarterback and much better success. But once again, it just really comes down to offense. Defense, I don't have a problem. I think they'll be fine like they were last year. It really is just going to come down to the offense side of the ball. But I'm just gonna wrap it up here. Like I said, for my 2023 season, I have the Giants 10-7. Let me know your thoughts down below on my predictions. If you think I was way too high, way too low, let me know your thoughts down below, and also give me your thoughts on what you think their record's going to be. With that being said, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.